Now, I know I'm still breaking my rule about not having any crossovers or SUVs during the summer, but when something like this comes up last minute, I have to take it. Our spotlight is on this 2020 Kia Telluride SX Limited. It is the largest Kia ever made, and it is also the most luxurious available here in Canada, since they don't sell the K900 and finding a cadenza is next to impossible. This has a 3.8-liter naturally aspirated V6 engine, producing 291 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque, and it competes directly with the Volkswagen Atlas that we just featured. Our Dark Moss SX Limited comes fully loaded at $54,195 Canadian. So we're going over absolutely everything you need to know if you're in the market for a mid-size 3-row crossover. Now, the timing on this is excellent. When I dropped off the 2020 Soul at the beginning of this week, they asked me if I would rather take the Telluride over the Sorento SXL I had booked instead. And obviously I said yes, because this is a new car. We've done a number of Sorentos so far, and I wanted to get in this. Kia says that this is the first vehicle that they've produced that was specifically designed for the North American market. It was designed at their design center in Irvine, California, and assembled in West Point, Georgia. Now, the first thing you'll notice about this is the striking amber daytime running lights. It has LED headlights, LED fog lights, LED positioning lights, and LED taillights. The daytime running lights also act as your front turn signals, and I have to say that when you see one of these on the road, you'll notice it instantly. They are very unique, not only the shape, but also the fact that they are amber instead of the usual white LEDs that we usually find. I love the look of the front of it. You have the full suite of Kia safety technology, including blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, lane follow assist, driver attention warning, forward collision, rear cross traffic alert, front and rear parking sensors, and adaptive cruise control. There are also two new safety technologies that's a first for Kia: a blind view monitor, which we'll talk about when we jump on the inside, and a safe exit assist system. The safe exit assist system is actually a twofold system that we're going to be talking about here. It uses a new electronic child lock system, so the windows and the doors for the back passengers are electronically controlled from a button on the front. We find that actually on all of Volvo's products, and some manufacturers are starting to adopt that. And if you're using this as a daily driver, you drive your kids to school and then you go pick up coworkers because you're the carpool for the day, you don't have to go and take all the door locks off. You can do it electronically from one button. But the way this safe exit system works is if you have it enabled and you turn it off, you want your kids to get out of the car, but the vehicle detects there is something coming from behind that could be a danger, it will override that system to prevent the doors from opening. This could save a life, and it is similar to the technology that Hyundai is using for bicyclists who are coming and the door might open and hit them. It's pretty much the same technology there. It works on both doors. Excellent safety technology on the new Telluride. A couple other features I want to talk about. It has automatic power folding mirrors, obstacle detecting windows. We talked about that last week with the 2020 Kia Soul. 360-degree cameras with exceptional video quality. Dual moonroof on the inside. Power rear liftgate with their smart feature where if you have your key in your pocket and you stand behind it for a few seconds, it will open up. It's personally not my favorite system. It will automatically do it if you're walking behind your car because you get into it from the garage. So things to note when it comes to that. You have inverted L-shaped taillights on the back, a dual exhaust, but only on the right side. It would have been nice if they had maybe a single exhaust or dual exhaust out of the back. Considering this is the only engine they offer for it, it just has a strange look to it. The fully loaded SX Limited here also comes with a rear self-leveling suspension, which is really cool. It's an option you have to add on if you live in the States. It is a $750 option for the tow package. So with this, you get the self-leveling suspension with this trim. On top of that, you also have a four-wheel fully independent suspension. Now, there's a number of drive modes for this vehicle as well. You have Eco and Comfort mode, which pretty much send 20 to 35% of the power to the rear wheels. But if you put it into Sport, Smart, or Snow mode, it will divert up to 50% of the power to the rear wheels. And that's why this is still considered a mid-size crossover, because it is front-wheel drive on a unibody platform. Last thing to note about the exterior, you do have a 5,000 pound tow rating for this with an 8-speed automatic transmission. And again, we're looking at the fully loaded model here in dark moss. Now, when I first saw the photos of the vehicle in this color, I wasn't sold on it. When you see it in person, you'll understand why it really looks nice. It's kind of a gray-green look to it. I personally really like it. I would probably get this in black if I were. The white version, not a huge fan of. It just has too much black trim around it. But if you go with a darker color, it looks fantastic. Now we're going to be jumping on the inside on the front portion first and then onto the back, because unlike the Volkswagen Atlas, there's a lot going on in the second row that we need to talk about. So let's jump on the inside now and go over what you need to know about the interior of the new 2020 Kia Telluride. It's something that I talked about on our 2020 Soul episode, and something that's been discussed quite a bit in the comments on that video already. But it seems that the Canadian market vehicles don't quite get as much, and it's unfortunately the same thing here for the Telluride. If you go up with the SXL, you only get this black Nappa leather seating. In the US, there's 3 different Nappa leather color options. You've got black, white, and then a brown. And then there's about 4 different colors for the regular leather, whereas here it's just black or chocolate brown, chestnut brown. So there's more options in the US. Here you're pretty limited, and it's unfortunate because personally I prefer some color. This would have looked so good in a light brown color, or even a dark brown color, but we are stuck here with just the black. Despite that, these are very comfortable seats. The driver has 2 memory options, full power options, lumbar support, and thigh extenders. Passenger also has a number of power options as well. There's no memory for them and no thigh extenders also. Both front seats are heated and ventilated with a heated steering wheel. There's tri-zone automatic climate control. There's controls in the top of the roof for the 3rd zone. We'll talk about that when we get into the back. But overall, the interior forward portion of this vehicle is really nice. You have a wood trim along here. It's likely plastic with wood trim along the doors. There's 64 ambient color options for this. It runs along the bottom of the aluminum trim that runs between the doors and the center here. Also on the back seats. We don't usually find that where there's rear seat ambient lighting. Now, it's not as much as something like a BMW or Mercedes. However, it's still very good for this type of vehicle. And definitely better when we think back to the Volkswagen Atlas that only had a white light that ran through it and only on the front portion of the vehicle. One of the other features that really stands out for me when it comes to this vehicle is the roof liner. Now, Kia says that it is a premium cloth roof liner. However, if you look at the Hyundai Palisade, they actually said it is a microfiber suede headliner. I would imagine they're using pretty much the same material here, but it looks really nice, extremely soft, comes in this excellent color. I think it looks really good. The only thing that takes away from it is the plastic dashboard. It's pretty much the same plastic dashboard that we've talked about for a little while now when it comes to Kia's products. It does look like it's stitched leather, but it's just plastic. And if they were to add maybe a leatherette top to it, it would look so much better. It would add to the rest of the luxuriousness to this interior, including the fact that the grab handles here in the center are stitched with like a leatherette material with your controls for the heated seats and ventilated seats. The rest of the interior is so nice that's just a small thing for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of other people who really do like the luxury-oriented vehicles would say if they were coming to this from a much more expensive vehicle, that is one of the only misses. Now, I want to talk about the technology on here. We have a color head-up display. We've seen it from Kia before, works extremely well. The 7-inch SuperVision instrument cluster is very similar to what we've seen on the Stinger, but it does have that blind spot monitor. We mentioned that, where if you put on the left turn signal, it'll show the camera feed from the left side of the car. Same thing for the right. Honda has been doing this for a while with the right side camera on their vehicles, but now you get it on both. I think it's a nice plus. You can see if there's a cyclist or pedestrians coming by. It gives you a bit of extra security and safety when you're driving. You still should use your mirrors all the time though. It's just an enhanced safety technology. The 10.25-inch infotainment screen is the same one that we saw on the new Kia Soul. I absolutely love it. UI-wise, it's phenomenal. It's not over the top, it's not complicated, it gets the job done, it looks really nice, and especially with the way the rest of the interior flows, it doesn't feel out of place. We talked about it a lot when we did the Soul. It's essentially the same system that we were using in previous models from Kia. It's just much wider. You have a home screen, you can have a split screen setup when you're on the navigation, and there's also a few small little features in there that they've added. A driver talk mode where you can push it and communicate a little bit better with the rear seats. Uses a microphone in the front to be able to speak through the speakers, and you also have a quiet mode which will turn off all but the front speakers and reduce all the volumes to 7. So if you have kids that are sleeping in the back, you can turn that on, still listen to Howard Stern without having to disturb them. And another thing about the infotainment is the Bluetooth. You can have 2 simultaneous devices connected, so if you have a work phone that you need to take phone calls on but you want to stream your music from a different device, you can do that through this system. You can also use the Qi wireless charging stored underneath the center console here. You have HomeLink, 6 USB outlets for charging, and interior LED lighting. There's 2 sunroofs here, a regular sunroof up top that you can close manually with your hand, and a second panoramic one in the back that has controls up here on the top. Like, it lets in a lot of light, very unique for this type of vehicle, kind of similar to the Sedona that we talked about a year ago. Now I'm going to jump into the back seat area. We're going to talk about the features going on there because there is a lot to go over, and then we will take it on a road test. Anybody who's expecting me to go into the third row is out of luck. I'm not getting back there. It is easier to get into the back though. There are buttons on the center row to be able to push the seat forward and have easier access to the back row. There's also grab handles in essentially the C-pillar area lower to the floor that it'll be easier for adults to be able to grab to get into. The second row can also be slid forward or back. This is as far back as these ones go, and I've got the front seat where I would be seated if I was driving. So if I were to sit normally, I've got like almost half a foot, if not a little bit more space here. Really, really comfortable. The pockets on the back here have space for magazines, even a cell phone, and they also have hooks to be able to put grocery bags or other items there so that they aren't sitting on the floor. USB ports are built directly into the seats for the back passengers here, so if you do have some sort of tablet device that you want to stick onto the back headrests, you can charge it a little bit easier there. You have cup holders, a 115 volt outlet, and a 12 volt outlet below that. You have vents in the roof for your airflow. They are directional, and also you can change how much is coming out and how little, along with the climate controls in the center with more LED lighting there. Really nice. You've also got floor vents underneath the seat, so a good amount of airflow for passengers back here. And then if you're in the third row, you do have 2 more vents in the roof liner. There isn't C-pillar vents, unlike we saw on the Volkswagen Atlas. However, I think airflow back there is still pretty good. Plus, you have a set of microphones there for the onboard mic system and more LED lighting to be able to see if you're reading something back there. And again, that's a big plus over the Atlas, which is essentially the same price. It did not have interior LED lighting, so big miss there. And again, for passengers in the third row, there are cup holders and USB outlets. Probably one of the only misses is there are no sunshades on the rear windows. We do see that on some of the minivans like the Chrysler Pacifica that we featured. And unlike the Palisade, it doesn't have power folding third row seats, which actually take like 30 seconds to do. They are a manual release, just like we saw on the Atlas. You just pull the strap and push them down, but it also allows you to adjust the back of it as well. Now here's why I mentioned we needed to be back here. Aside from all that stuff that we just talked about, the second row captain's chairs here have adjustable armrests. You can pull them up or down. When you push it down all the way, it'll click, so you can have a good position there, but they are heated and ventilated. We don't often see that in this price segment, especially from a vehicle from Kia. The only other vehicles that we've tested that have rear ventilated seats are BMW, Cadillac, and Mercedes-Benz at this time. And really, it's a win for everybody. If you're using this car to drive your kids back and forth to school, they might appreciate having the ventilated seats. So if you're using it as a family hauler, it's always nice to have. If you want to use this for Uber for whatever reason, the features back here will certainly keep your passengers very happy. And then again, if you're doing the commute with coworkers, passengers back here will be comfortable. And I have to say that Kia has really nailed it when it comes to this vehicle. It makes buying a 3-row Sorento not quite as feasible anymore, just because you get so much more with this and there is so much more space. And I have a feeling that the Sorento will have the same fate that the Hyundai Santa Fe did, where the Santa Fe XL was the 3-row version. It was killed off essentially. You can still buy it for 2019, but it has officially been replaced by the Palisade. I have a feeling the next generation Sorento will be a 2-row mid-size crossover, and this will be the only option for 3. But let's take it on the road, go over everything else you need to know about the 3.8-liter V6 engine, the 8-speed transmission, the self-leveling rear suspension, and everything else that makes this one hell of a good $55,000 mid-size crossover. So as I mentioned during our walk around, it worked out really well that I had this week because we just did the Atlas, and it gives me a really great opportunity, literally going from one to the other, to tell you exactly how the two of them compare, because I think people might be cross-shopping them, unless of course you're married to Volkswagen, in which case you won't consider anything else. But if you really are in the market for a 3-row crossover, you need the space, you need a little bit of the power, because I mean, let's be honest, even at 291 horsepower, it's not breathtaking, right? There are more powerful options out there. Something like the Dodge Durango with the Hemi would be much more powerful. So if you're going to be towing a lot of things, you want to do a lot of heavy duty stuff, you're going to be looking at something more like that. But this has a little bit more power than the Atlas did, and most people aren't going to be too worried about total power, 0 to 60 time, things like that. The whole point is to be able to get your family around. Can they do it efficiently enough? Is it comfortable? And how the vehicle feels on the road. So let's talk about those things. First of all, we are in smart mode, not in sport mode, but smart mode. It's supposed to, I guess, adapt to how you're driving and figure out what the best way is to drive, whether it's going to be a little economically or sporty. However it is you drive, it will be determined based on that. So we're in smart mode, which should do up to 50% of the power to the rear wheels if it needs it. And I keep the little display on the 7-inch supercomputer here to show me which wheels are actually getting traction, just because I've already got a really nice HUD that shows me my speed. I don't really need anything else down there in the computer, so I just leave that on, more just for fun than anything else. Now, I mentioned when you turn on the turn signals, it will pull up the camera on the side of the vehicle. I think it's really nice. We've been testing it with Honda's vehicles recently, so we already have a pretty good familiarity with that system, but now that you can also use it when you're turning left is a big plus. Now, obviously, you shouldn't be using it only to look through the camera. You should still be aware of what's going on in your blind spots and on the mirrors, but it is a nice little plus to have, especially if you're worried about maybe a cyclist coming by, you don't see them as you glance over. That's a good way to be able to see quickly as well without any obstruction. Also, I mean, if you've got somebody sitting there, they're maybe doing their hair or something, which often happens with me, I can't see out of that window sometimes, I can use the camera. So a great little feature there. It's available on this Kia Telluride. It's a nice thing to have. But let's talk about the ride and the handling of it. Very, very comfortable. I'd say pretty similar to what the Atlas had. You go over the bumps, you still will feel it in the sense that the vehicle will manipulate around it. You're not going to feel any adverse effects of any bumps or big hits like that because it is such a big vehicle. And overall, I mean, the drive is good. The rear self-leveling suspension could be handy if you're loading it up, or if you put a trailer on the back, it will level it out so you're not collapsing the rear suspension all the time. And again, that's an option you have to add if you're in the States. It comes on the SX Limited here in Canada, which is a nice thing to have. We don't have anything that's too heavy to test out, but we'll see. Maybe by the end of the weekend, since it is a long weekend here in Quebec, maybe we'll have a reason to be able to use it. But I have really enjoyed my time with this vehicle. I've only spent about 5 days with it as the time that we're filming this, but I gotta say they have been very nice, and I understand now why in Canada and the US they are not able to hold these on in the dealerships. People are going in and they're buying them as soon as they become available. And while the SX Limited might not be the most popular trim here in Canada, even the SX still offers enough for buyers to get pretty excited about. But even at 55 grand, I mean, as we saw with the Atlas, this is right in there with that price point. The Hyundai Palisade should be coming out around the same price. If the US pricing is anything to go on, that they are going to be very competitive. Everything in this segment is going to be highly competitive now. And if you want this boxier look, which you can really get with this, the Atlas or the Palisade, then you've got some really solid options now. I'm really happy that this vehicle has come out. It was a bit of a surprise for me personally to see it come out, and I'm really glad that I'm behind the wheel of it because it is probably one of the best mid-sized crossovers that we've driven, and especially for the price point, I mean, you really can't go wrong. Now, like I said, when we were outside, there are dedicated drive modes. We're in smart mode. You've got sport, eco, and comfort mode. There also is an auto stop start system. You have to turn that on every time, even if you put the car into sport mode. But then if you push the button, you can go into the off-road mode. So you've got snow mode, mud mode, and sand mode. These are great if you do live somewhere that you do get a lot of snow, like here in Quebec. You want to put it into snow mode. It will start the vehicle off in the second gear. It will give you more traction and ultimately less power to the wheels, so you aren't slipping and sliding all over the place. Since we had the Volkswagen Atlas and Kia Telluride back to back, I want to compare our fuel economy testing between both vehicles. During our 100-kilometer test loop, the Telluride did 9.6 liters per 100 kilometers in comfort mode, or 24.5 US miles per gallon, compared to the 11 liters per 100 kilometers, or 21 mpg in eco mode for the Atlas. Our 1,337 kilometer week with the Telluride was a lot more than we did with the Atlas, but it came in 10.2 liters per 100 kilometers total, or 23 mpg, versus the 12.4 liters per 100 kilometers, or 19 mpg the Atlas did. Highway driving makes a difference. However, it's important to note that at least half of our driving with the Kia was done with 4 adults, a child, and cargo, which weighs the vehicle down more than the Atlas, which was almost exclusively driven by just myself and my 5-year-old in the car. Let's talk about our likes and dislikes when it comes to the $54,000 Telluride. First off, the exterior design is a solid win for us, with those distinctive amber LED daytime running lights, muscular curves, and upright ride height. Interior design is also excellent, giving the Kia a proper premium feel to it. Kia's added safety tech on top of their core systems makes for a safer experience, and the updated technology found on the Telluride helps to plant this vehicle at the top of the segment. Finally, we'd be hard-pressed not to include the fuel economy, considering it did quite a bit better than its direct competitor. But there are some points that Kia can work on to address some of our dislikes. The hard plastic dashboard takes away from the premium feel of the interior, and it's something that we've mentioned before when it comes to their flagship vehicles like the Kia Stinger. Available options not offered here in Canada, like the different leather colors, is also a miss. Considering the Telluride is assembled in the US, options should be easier to ship up here, unlike the complaint that we had about the 2020 Soul, which is assembled in South Korea. Finally, the recently launched Hyundai Palisade adds a couple extra electronic goodies on top of the Telluride. While the features might not be important to some, things like a fully digital gauge cluster, 2 extra speakers for the Harman Kardon audio system, and the rear power folding seats might make the difference for buyers, especially if the Hyundai launches with essentially the same price. Not everybody wants a digital cluster, so for some the Telluride's semi-analog setup might be ideal for them, but considering the Volkswagen Atlas we just featured also offers a digital cluster, it seems the trend at this price point is moving in that direction. But what do you think about the 2020 Kia Telluride? Join our community discussion below by leaving your own comment or adding your opinion in a reply to someone else's. We always try to reply to all the comments we get on our channel and love engaging with our community regarding cars.